All right. Welcome, everybody. If you have not met me, my name is Andy Atkins Pogue. I actually have another last name in there, but when I put it on the screen, you can't see everything. So I am a librarian at CRC, and I normally work heavily in instruction and collection development within the library. But last academic year and this coming academic year, I was asked to work on a special project with the goal of becoming a zero textbook cost campus. And this actually came from President Bush. This is his dream, and I fully support it. I think it's a fantastic initiative. And so I've been working hard to help us achieve that goal over the last year, and will continue into the next year. So this is me. And as we get started, I'm not on campus today, but I do want to acknowledge our beautiful campus. There's a picture. We are on Indigenous land and on the land of the Miwok and Nisenan people. So I hope to see many of you tomorrow at Convocation, where we're going to actually have some tribal leaders that are going to be part of the morning ceremony. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how OER work started at CRC. So OER stands for Open Educational Resources. And before last year, we had one full-time librarian who acted as the OERI liaison. So the OERI is an initiative through the State Academic Senate, and it stands for Open Educational Resources Initiative. Each college has a representative that relays information from the state initiative and tries to promote OER on their campus. And so as I was doing my library work, I was also doing this OERI work. There's a very small stipend involved in this work to help promote OER across the campus. So that's kind of how our work started before last academic year. And that really was occasional support. I would occasionally have faculty members reach out to me and say, hey, I'm kind of interested in this, but I don't know where to start. Can you help? And I would help them do some research or try to give them some information. And then I would relay information that was coming from the State Academic Senate. So come to today, how we are progressing with this. So before last school year started in August, late August, I was approached by my dean at the time, Stephen McLaughlin. He actually just retired, but he had been approached by the college president, who said, I think we should do this. I think we should become a zero textbook cost campus. And I think Andy should do this work. What do you think? And they approached me, and my initial reaction was, no way, it can't be done. It's impossible. And I don't want to take this on. It's too much. It's not going to happen. And I was actually really worried about, working on this, and then what happens if we can't reach that goal? What does that mean for me? But then the more that I thought about it, and the more that I kind of wrapped my head around it, I decided that it was something that I wanted to work on and something that I'm pretty passionate about. And I think having a librarian on this project, because we have relationships in a lot of different departments, and we're just kind of in tune with a lot of the OER that's being published, I think it was a good fit. So they asked me to step away from the library and to work on this on 100% release time. And that, of course, was approved by and officially appointed by our Academic Senate President, Scott Crozier. And as part of this, we have put structures in place to help support this. So we have me working on it 100%. I do have some temporary classified professionals who have been hired to work specifically on this project. This year, we have something new where we have CAC faculty leads. So I have additional support from other faculty within individual CACs. And we also have hired a consultant to help on this project, and her name is Barbara Elowski. She is a former math faculty at De Anza College. She's retired now, but she's also the co-author of 2 of the OpenStax math textbooks. So there's a statistics textbook and a business statistics textbook that she co-authored. And so she's been really invaluable on the project as well. So I do want to take a moment to acknowledge President Bush, because again, this was his idea and his kind of dream. And I can tell you, I've presented a lot to other people across the state. And last week or the week before, both President Bush and I presented at the Cal OER conference, and we actually had folks from all over the country attending that conference. And people are just so envious of us because we have this type of support. And because it's coming from President Bush, I have gotten the support from the administrators that are underneath him. So all of our VPs, I've met with all of them, I've worked with all of them, and they have just been super supportive, and they know that this is an important initiative. And even when I have requests that seem like there's no way they're going to help me with this, somehow it gets pushed through. So it's actually been a joy to work on the project. All right, so how are we trying to achieve this goal? So we're taking a 3-pronged approach. The primary way, and I think the most sustainable and most impactful as far as equity goes, is the OER award program. And this is a stipend that's available to full-time and part-time faculty. And it's to incentivize folks to switch from a commercial textbook to an open educational resource. And in some cases, that's not possible. There is no OER version. Like an example might be a novel that's being used for a class. And so we do have mechanisms in place. I'm going to talk about all 3 of these a little bit more. The second way is through library resources. And so we've done a lot of purchasing of ebook licenses and streaming video, and even in some cases, we've purchased some databases. And so the library has been very, very helpful and supportive in this process. And we're also piloting this fall a program called Controlled Digital Lending. And so if any of y'all have ever used Internet Archive, that website, this is the idea behind that website. If a library owns a physical copy of a book, they can scan that physical copy, and instead of loaning the physical copy, they then loan the digital copy of the book. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to that part of the slide. Okay, so the OER award program is all faculty are eligible to participate. Full-time faculty can earn up to $5,000. Adjunct faculty earn based on their FTE load. And the way that works is it's split into 2 semesters. So for adjunct faculty, for the fall, you would look at what your FTE load is and multiply that times 2,500, and that gives you an idea of how much you're eligible to earn. Another great thing that has come out of this is traditionally any sort of additional earnings counted against your load. So if you were already maxed out at a 0.6, you couldn't really participate in something like this because that you were working too much, you were earning too much. But Robert Montanez, our VPI, worked really hard at the district office and in HR and got it so that it does not account against adjunct load. So even if you have a full load, you're still eligible to participate and get paid for this program. There are 3 categories in which people can participate. So maybe you're brand new to this, you've never used an OER, and you're kind of starting from scratch. Or I have folks who had already switched to an OER, but maybe they needed a little bit of a refresh. They wanted to change some of the examples. They wanted to make content more culturally relevant or accessible. Those folks can also apply and are eligible for the award. And then we have a group of folks who had already switched over. They were already really happy with everything, but they were still interested in participating and supporting other people within their discipline, and they can apply and also receive the full award. And I have folks in all 3 of these categories. And even non-classroom faculty, so librarians can participate and counselors can participate as well. We have multi-layer support in place. So we have me working on this full time, and I have office hours once a week. We also have the new CAC OER leads. So in each CAC, they will be hosting office hours this semester every other week. And the asynchronous support is a Canvas course that we've created that's part of one of the requirements to get your first payment. You have to go through the Canvas course. And we've also created a website, and I'm going to go through that in just a minute. I'll go back and talk a little bit more about where to find information on the OER award program if you haven't yet applied for it. The library resources part of this, I mentioned this briefly, that we've purchased a lot, and we do have dedicated funding to do these types of purchases. That's not coming out of the library budget, so it's not impacting regular library materials. We have a separate budget that we're using to purchase materials that are specifically for classes that are required materials, so that students don't have to pay for these materials out of their pocket. And so that has included a bunch of novels and popular nonfiction for the English department. We've done a lot of that. There have been some cases recently. One of our vendors, I don't know how they managed to do it, but they have been able to acquire ebook licenses of actual textbooks, which has been very limited in the past. So we've been able, there have been a few actual textbooks that we've been able to get ebook licenses for. Streaming media, so in some classes, folks want to show a specific film or a specific movie, and so we've been licensing that material. And even in there's been a couple examples. Theater arts has been one area where we've actually purchased new database content to help support their programs. And ethnic studies, we're getting an ethnic studies database as well. And of course, the librarians have been such a huge help to me in this aspect. They have also helped in doing research for specific faculty and specific classes. The controlled digital lending, this is not a long-term solution. It's really a stopgap for hard to convert classes when OER is lacking. And this is especially true in some of the career and technical education programs. A lot of those programs, we have 1 or 2 faculty members, or sometimes even just 1, who is teaching every single course within that sequence. And they just simply don't have time to work on something like this. So there's new stuff being produced every single day. And so our hope is that if we can buy a class set of books and make them available through CDL, then that gives us a little bit of time to figure out how we can move forward. As part of this, we're buying a lot of material. And the rule behind CDL is that you actually have to own the physical copy in order to loan that digital copy. But these don't necessarily need to be, we don't have room in the library, that we don't have just a bunch of shelves where we can house all of this stuff. So actually in the budget, we have a storage space that's just for these books that we're ordering. And again, I'm relying heavily on library support. So we had to buy some additional software to be able to do this, scanners, and the behind the scenes work is, they've gone way out of their way to make this happen. So I don't know if any library folks are here, but thank you. I appreciate everything you've done. Okay, so how are we doing? Here's some of the research that we have been able to do over the last year or so. In the spring semester, we increased our ZTC offerings enough that we saved our students $1.1 million in textbook costs. So that savings is directly impacting our students. We had a 20% increase in ZTC offerings from last fall to last spring. So we went from 10% to 30% of our classes were zero textbook costs. So this does include lab sections. It does not include, I did not include the independent study sections, which is pretty much in every discipline they have an independent study course. I'm misspeaking. It's not independent study, it's the work program. And those are all listed as ZTC, but we didn't count them in our count. And but there is a little bit of a caveat, because the way that we are tagging our classes in the class schedule, it's a self-reporting system where faculty fill out a form, and that's how they get that little symbol on the class schedule. They're self-reporting. And we know in many, many cases that faculty actually are not using a textbook. They are using an OER, or they have all of their materials within Canvas, but they never filled out the form. And that was especially true last fall. Last spring, our data was much cleaner because I actually had somebody going through every single section and clicking all the way through to the bookstore and seeing what it said at the bookstore. And in many cases, it actually was ZTC, but they didn't have the symbol on the class schedule because the faculty member had not filled out the form. So there are some processes in place. We actually have some new reporting requirements to the state that are going into effect this fall. And so I'm working with a district task force to come up with a better way to collect this information. And we're going to be piloting that in the fall, and there's going to be more information that will come out about that. The OER award program itself, we have 71 full-time faculty that have signed up, and we have about 170 full-time faculty total. So right now we've got about 37% of our full-time faculty who have signed on to do this. We have about 14% of our adjunct faculty. And when you sign up for the OER award program, you are committing to eventually switch all of your classes to ZTC. So that, I think, has scared some folks. They think, well, I might be able to do it for 1 or 2 classes, but I don't know that I can do it for everything. And my hope is, I would say, sign up. Let's start with what you're ready to start with. And hopefully, once you've done one course and you see the impact that it has on not only you, but your students, I mean, the impact that it has on your students, then you would be more open to continue to converting your other classes. Other research that we have been able to gather over the last year, an analysis of ZTC versus non-ZTC sections showed slightly higher success rate for ZTC students. So again, caveat on this data, it's very, very hard to, there are so many things that are impacting student success. We know that the modality of the class, the teaching style of the instructor, all of those things are factors. And so there's no way that we can say that because these classes were ZTC, that is the reason students were more successful. It was also a very small sample size. We were able to study 14 sections total that we did an analysis of it had to be a class that there were some instructors that were offering at ZTC and some weren't. Otherwise, we couldn't really compare. So it was a pretty small sample size. And again, there's like no definitive way to know what was helping students be more successful. But there was a slightly higher success rate. In the spring, last spring, the ZTC class courses that were tagged as ZTC did have increased enrollment. And on average, it was about 2.3 more enrollments in those sections. And that enrollment was really, that peak was really in the first priority, the first part of the enrollment period, where you have most classes are open. After that first, I think it was a 10-day period, then it kind of leveled out and the enrollment was about the same. We also found that courses in fall of 21 that had higher textbook costs had more pre-census drops during the first few weeks of the semester. And the highest rate was for the classes that had textbooks that were $150 or more. And just anecdotally, hearing from students, often students don't buy the textbook because they think maybe they can get away with being in the class without actually purchasing the textbook. And then once they get into the class and they realize, actually, no, I don't think I can do this without the book and I can't afford it, and it's $150, then that's when those drops start to happen. So higher textbook costs have caused more pre-census drops. That's what we found so far. And we're going to try to continue this research this year so we can continue doing this analysis. All right, so what's next? I'm going to show you this website. We've built a website, and this is kind of our one-stop place to get information about ZTC. What was happening is that I was doing all of this work and getting all of this stuff created, and basically my only mechanism to get it out to faculty was through email, and things were getting lost and people couldn't find things, and people would say, I know you sent me something, but I can't find it, and I'm sending so many emails that I have no idea which one they're referring to. So we wanted to create a space where everything is in that space, so you can go and look at it at your leisure, but you can also, if you know that I sent something out, it's going to be on the website as well. Our next big step is to we have been identifying which courses are ZTC and how those fit in our GE areas and how they fit in a sequence for a degree or certificate. And we are working on figuring out how to get that information on the website in a clear way in multiple places. And one place is in the program maps, so that students and counseling have access to that and they can get a clear idea. If there is a ZTC section of this course, it's going to be identified on the website. And all of that work is related to this last bullet. The Chancellor's Office, not last year, but the year prior, was awarded $115 million in the state budget for ZTC degrees and certificates in California community colleges. And they sat on that money for an entire year. And I think part of it was that it was so much money that they were paralyzed by it. The previous time the Chancellor's Office had been awarded funds for this type of work, it was $5 million. So it just exponentially grew, and they're still, I think, struggling with that. We just in July just finally got some very basic information. So the college will be getting $20,000 in the next few months to help in this effort. And then a new phase of funding and application process will open up this year where we can apply for up to $200,000 for work on creating ZTC degrees and certificates. And so that's something that we're really going to be focusing on this year, is figuring out what areas, where are we close to having that full sequence ready to go. And we're going to start focusing on some of those classes. So that's kind of what the next steps are. I do want to show you the OER award program website, and I want to show you the ZTC at CRC website, but I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to pause. I don't see any questions in chat, but I just wanted to allow if anybody has questions to any of the stuff I've talked about so far.
I mean, I have a question about how to apply for that award program.
How to apply for the OER award program. Okay, let's start with that. I'm going to go back to this slide. Okay. So the OER award program, it has its own section on the employee website. So it's employees.losrios.edu. That's the employee website. And if you're not sure even how to get there, from our main website, this is kind of the student-facing side, there's a link up here for employees. So if people who are new to the college, welcome. I did see, I think I have a couple brand new faculty, so welcome to CRC. And if you haven't been shown this website, you're gonna wanna know that this is how you find it, because there's lots of great resources on here for faculty and new employees. So the OER award program is under the equity and research heading up here at the top, and you'll see it's right here. Or you can just do a search for OER and it's going to come up. So this runs through a little bit of an overview of the program. It talks about the categories in which you can apply. And if you're not sure, don't worry too much about this, because the only person that is seeing this application is me. And there's not really any, like, if you apply in category number 1 and then you actually realize you're more in category number 2, it doesn't matter. The amount that you're eligible to earn is the same. Okay. The disbursement of award funds, these are all accordion menus. So when you click the little plus sign, it's going to open up. And so I would pay attention to this. This is what you have to do to receive each of 2 payments. There are 2 payments. So payment number 1, you have to fill out the application, and there's a link right here. It's a very short, quick application. You have to enroll in this Canvas course. It's a self-paced Canvas course. And then you have to attend basically it's office hours. When I very first started this, I did have Q&A sessions, but now I just call them office hours. And they are listed in the faculty and staff calendar. You can attend if it's within your specific CAC, you can attend those, or you can attend one with me. It doesn't matter which one you go to. And if there's not one, if your CAC time is not doesn't work with your schedule, you can go to another CAC's office hours. You just know that you might have to sit through some discipline-specific questions that may not be relevant to you. And then payment number 2, I should really actually probably switch the order of these 2 things, because you're going to do your work to convert your class. And as part of that, you have to turn in the last assignment that's in this Canvas course. And that last assignment is either telling me what you're using if you're adopting something that's already in place, or if you are going to remix something or write something or do something and you need some help with that, you're going to give me an outline of what it is that you need help with. And really, it's helpful for me if I have a chance to see that before we do the check-in, because I will most likely have some questions for you. And then once we get all that resolved and you've done those 2 things, then you're eligible for the second payment. What did I want to say about that real quick? I don't know. I lost it. So I really probably should change the order of these two things. And then down below, there's also another link to the application. And then there's another link to enroll in the textbook course. And then down below, you'll see office hours listed. And I'm going to scroll back up to the top. So if that makes you dizzy, look away real quick. The other things on this website are a link to FAQs that we've gotten from the program. And then this is the ZTC at CRC website, which is the other thing that I wanted to show you. So this website includes information for every CAC. And then once you find your CAC and you click on it, it contains information for each individual department. And some of these have been fleshed out a lot more than others because there's just more material in some areas than there are in others. So I'll just give you an example. So this is art history. If I know that the instructor is already ZTC, I will list them up here. We've been trying to putting email addresses in here. So if you are teaching the same course and you'd maybe like to contact this person, there's an easy way to do that. And if I know what they're using, I've included a link to that. And we've tried to do it for not only CRC, but for all Los Rios colleges, so that if there's maybe nobody here at CRC, but you'd like to reach out to somebody else on another campus, you can do that. The only exception to that is English writing, because I have so many faculty in the English department who have signed on for this and are doing this work that it was their blue area just takes up a ton of space already. So we didn't put other colleges in there. The State Academic Senate, that initiative that I was talking about earlier, the OERI, in some disciplines, they have a discipline lead, and that can be a great resource for you. And so if there has been a lead assigned, I will include that information in this little gray area. And then as you scroll down, you're going to see a spreadsheet, which is also, if you don't want to look at it in the screen like this, where it's kind of squished, there's a link right up above where you can open this into a new window. And for these spreadsheets, it includes the course, the title, if there is a CID, which that is the ID that's attached to it at the state level, so that all the courses that have this CID have a certain, kind of requirements to be able to fulfill the requirements for transfer. And so that can be helpful sometimes. Sometimes people don't understand what that is, and it can be a little bit confusing because often the number is different than our course number. So try not to let that confuse you, but usually it means it's transferable to either CSU or the UC system. Then there's a link to the course outline, and this is from Socrates. And then if we know that there's somebody in Los Rios that already has switched to ZTC, it's in this box, and this is the same information that you're going to find up here. And then if there is material that the State Academic Senate has identified, or there's also a listserv that we look at, we include links to that here. So if folks are interested in switching over and they want to see what kind of recommendations have been made, there's links to that here. And then this continues over and has GE information, which it doesn't really matter for most of you don't really care about the GE information. That was more for me because I am working on projects related to that. The other thing, and there's none, I don't think, in art history, is that we have, I'll show you these, we have created some Canvas Commons templates that have already embedded OER text within those templates that you can use. And I'll show you that page on the website. Then as you continue down, if we have done some research, if librarians have done research for a specific class, sometimes it's a specific class, sometimes it's the entire discipline. We've created a document here, and this is a Google Doc that just opens in a new window and has some places where you might look to get some ideas if you're ready to try to convert that class over. And these are going to be updated regularly. All right, so that is a specific page. There's other pages within this website. So after you get through the CACs, we have a professional development page, and this includes a video series of workshops that Jenna hosted for us last year on all kinds of things, backwards design, accessible ZTC options, and then she kind of went into individual types of assignments and accessibility. And then if you keep scrolling down to the bottom, the OERI, they just have a ton of webinars that they offer every semester, and they archive most of those. And so there's a link to their archive page. And then here's our calendar down below that has office hours. And we are going to, when we get schedules for OERIs, webinars, we're going to include them in this calendar as well. And I usually send out an email too that has that information. So that's professional development. The Find OER and ZTC page, this is for folks who want to go and do their own research. These are repositories and other places that have OER, and in some cases, other material that's not necessarily OER, like TED is an example, or crash course videos is an example. So those aren't open educational resources, but they are freely available to use. And so the difference between free and OER typically has a Creative Commons license on it, which means depending on the license, you can use it just as it is, or if it's a more open type of license, you can use parts of it, you can change parts of it, you can add to it, you can move things around. There's a lot of things that you can do with an OER. With something that's freely available, like the crash course videos, you can use those. They're freely available online. Crash Course has its own YouTube channel with tons of really short, informative videos on many, many different subjects. But you don't have the ability you couldn't take their script and then rework it and revoice it and then sort of act as if you created it. That would be a violation of copyright. So that's a difference between open and free. And then down below, there's library resources. And this is just a tiny bit of what's available through the library, but I picked the things that I think will probably be most useful to faculty. And then you can go to the databases page to see everything. The Canvas shells, this is what I was talking about earlier. So we've done it for all of the available OpenStax books. And then we also have had faculty who have requested specific LibreText books. And so those are on this page as well. And they are organized by CAC. I probably should have put them in alphabetical order, but I didn't. So if you scroll down, you'll see what we have available on here. And in some cases, we have things like this. So Charity is one of our adjunct faculty members in CIS, and she teaches this course, and she created her own course in Canvas, and she made that available under a Creative Commons license so that anybody who also teaches this course, or maybe they look at it and they decide that there are elements of this course, they could pull that into their own class. same with any of this stuff. So this is a class that I teach, and this is a textbook that I created for my class. But there's some things within this class that might be that I have a module on misinformation and fake news. And so that might be really useful for a journalism class or an RTVS class, or maybe an English class. And they might want to just use that one module. They could. That's kind of the beauty of OER. You don't have to use everything. You can use what's most useful to you. And you can also, maybe you don't like the way I wrote it, it's not your style, you could go in and rewrite the whole thing if you wanted to. So that's super helpful. And these Canvas shells up at the very top, Jenna did a recording on how to use these. And she also created a Google Doc that has screenshots that shows you how to kind of go through this. So why would you use this? And we recommend that you request a development shell, that you don't pull this into your actual course. So if you're not sure how to do that, here's instructions on how to do that. And then how you actually pull it into your class. And then what kind of the features are within these templates, and how you can modify, move things around, delete pages if they're not relevant to you. Let's see. There are a couple other features on the website. LibreText is my preferred platform if you're creating something new. So we have our math folks working so hard right now to convert a bunch of their classes, and they are doing it within LibreText. So they're creating their textbook in LibreText. And the advantage of that is it's super easy to pull the text into your Canvas course. And also LibreText has a lot of other added features. They have new products. They have something called Studio and Adapt, which is their homework system, which allows you to do kind of some interactive things within the textbook. So this is a page that kind of walks you through the process. LibreText has office hours twice a week. I just went to theirs this morning and I got a bunch of my questions answered. So that is super helpful. And then I included some recordings and webinars on some of their material. And then the last page is kind of the how-to page. There's a lot of information on this page. So I did put a table of contents up at the top. But these are things, and I usually will send this out in an email. If somebody's requested a book, that we purchase a book for their class, I send them an email that has a link to the book and how to provide a link in Canvas and all of that stuff. But sometimes that email gets lost. And so this is a page where you can go and try to understand how to do all of that stuff. And like I said, this is long, so it just keeps going and going and going. And that's why I put the table of contents up at the top. So things that are going to be happening with this website this year, we're going to continue adding as we know about new OER material. We're going to continue work within specific disciplines. So I would say especially the CTE areas have been a bit neglected, mostly because I don't have hardly anybody who's applied, and I really wanted to focus resources on folks who actually had applied for the OER award program to make sure that we were getting them help and resources. But we are going to start working on those Google Docs that give folks some specific examples of things that they might be able to use. And this document includes both OER and library material that you could use. It's just not necessarily open, which means you couldn't modify it, but you could certainly use a chapter or an entire book or an entire video, whatever you wanted to do. And also, I know that the information about specific things that people are using is linked up here, but someone told me just today that they thought it would be more helpful if we had kind of a separate area that maybe had some images of the books and they click on it and it would just be easy. So we'll probably, that'll be something that we'll work on this semester to add kind of another section within the page that would be more visual, that you could kind of see what it was that people were using in individual courses. I've just been talking so much. What kind of questions do folks have?
What is the timeline to get funding from that program?
Very, very good question.
Like any deliverable on the way?
So timeline, the first payment it's really easy to get because you basically don't need to do anything except fill out the application, enroll in the Canvas course, and what's the third thing? Oh, go to an office hour. So that we think is easily achieved. For the second payment, once you've turned in your assignment number 4, then I will usually reach out and I have to say, if there are folks here today who have turned in assignment number 4 in the last month, I have not graded those things yet. So I apologize. I was off for a couple of weeks at the end of July, and then I've just been super busy since I got back. So I haven't had a chance to grade those, but my goal is to grade them before my first office hours, which is on the 26th of August. So, but here's the deal. The funding that we're using for the OER award program is categorical funding. It came from the federal government as part of the HERF relief funds. So HERF standard for higher education. I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but it was relief funds that came to institutions because of the COVID pandemic. And that has to be spent by the end of April of this 2023. So if you apply to the program and you're actively working on converting your courses, but you're not done and you're not going to be ready even for next fall, you're still going to get paid. You're going to get that second payment because we have to get that money out the door. But knowing that you have committed to eventually switch all of your classes over. And so we'll just continue this work. The money that's coming from the state is going to be coming to us this year. We have no idea what that looks like yet. They have not released any details, so we don't know what kind of restrictions are going to be on that funding. Our hope is that we will be able to use it to help incentivize faculty so that there will be additional opportunities to earn more money for this work. I just don't know what that looks like yet. Did I answer your question to your?
So, when is the last funding we can apply for? Like, we can apply this semester? Or?
Yes, the application will stay open this entire fall semester and likely into early spring. By that point, I think we'll know what kind of money we're going to be getting from the state. And so it's very likely that the application would stay open past that and continue to stay open.
Let me turn my. I wanted to say that when I was working on my course last semester, sometimes as an adjunct, I'm not sure what I'll be assigned to the following semester. And I also misunderstood, and I think it was fairly easy to misunderstood. I was trying to write an entire course. You know, it was as if I was using outside resources, but trying to create my own compilation that served as a textbook or was a textbook. And that's pretty daunting. And so, you know, I would encourage people who are hesitant, because I got so many resources from you after talking to you about that. And I think that it's very important to understand that we do have the support system in place, because after taking the Canvas course, or after working through the Canvas course, that last assignment, I was completely overwhelmed with that. Never did turn it in. I did talk to you, but I never did turn it in because it looks overwhelming. So, you know, that's just my 2 cents, and I'll turn off my microphone and camera again. But thank you, by the way.
That's Jerry, right? Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, I get that. I know that it can be overwhelming, and it can be daunting. So I would say, when you get to that point, to not panic and say, I can't do it, I'm just going to quit, but to reach out to me so that we can talk about it. Because often it is not true that you have to write your own textbook. There is a lot of material that's already out there, and it just might mean moving stuff around and pulling things from lots of different resources so that you can create something that you think is appropriate for your learning outcomes, and that you feel comfortable using as your resource for students. I see Carl is on the session, and he is the OER lead for social and behavioral sciences. He teaches humanities, and he also has been using OER and has been ZTC in I think most of his classes. So I hate to put you on the spot, Carl, but do you want to talk a little bit about how you don't have to build something from scratch all the time? You can use things that are already out there.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. Yeah, I think with the humanities, you know, we found that some disciplines have a ton of resources, like English or communications. Humanities, there wasn't very many, you know, existing books that were free that had OER licensing. I think we found 4, and I didn't really like them that much, and they didn't really map onto our student learning objectives that we have in Socrates. But I was able to pick and choose from some of them. So grab a chapter here, grab a chapter there. And also I just went outside of my discipline proper and just kind of picked something from anthropology here, or picked something here. And then if you have time, you could, you know, import them into Canvas and then tinker with them if you want. But then I also just have a lot of YouTube videos or other things that aren't books, but that I use to deliver content. And so it does take time to assemble all of those things, but not as long as you'd have to take to write your own book.
Yeah, that's super useful information. And just anecdotally hearing from students, because I've talked to a lot of students, and the kind of things that they tell me are things like, you know, I bought this really expensive textbook and we only used it twice during the whole semester because most of the stuff was coming from my instructor. And gosh, if that's the case in your class, why are you using a commercial textbook when it probably means that you're not that happy with it anyway? So if it's only okay, then why not explore and see if there might be some other options that hopefully will be better than okay. And knowing that if there's parts that you don't like, you can actually change it if you wanted to. But again, you don't have to. This is not saying you have to reinvent the wheel and write your own textbook. That's not what we're saying. We're asking you to explore what is out there and see if there's something that's comparable. And in some cases, it might be going outside of your discipline to pull in pieces to make things work.
So my another question is like to create the GTC course, do you need to use OER material, or is there any other things you can use for the GTC?
It does not have to be all OER. So I think that is also confusing. The goal
is confusing to me. So
yeah. There's a whole bunch of acronyms that we're using. So the goal is to become a zero textbook cost college. And what that means is that your students do not have to pay for any of the required material for your course. Now, in the official definition, that does not include things like lab coats or lab kits or art supplies. So in those types of cases, your course could still be tagged ZTC if you're not requiring students to purchase a textbook or other kind of instructional material. But if you are requiring them to buy, let's say, some paint for an art class, that is not included in the definition. So you still could be ZTC, although there is a bill going through the legislature right now that could change that. But for right now, that's our official definition. So how you get to that ZTC, OER is a great way because it's free and it's open and you can change and adapt and remix. But you could also, I have one faculty member who's teaching their entire course using library material. So they were able to find ebook licenses. This is a film study class. And there was enough material in the databases and we had unlimited user licenses to these ebooks. And so he's maybe using a chapter from this book for one section and a chapter from a different book for another section, and making the class work with not using OER, but using materials that are freely available to students. So that is a possibility too. And most often it's going to be a combination of things. So you might have Kelsey Ford is also on the call, and she is the CAC lead for English and Language Studies. And so her class is a perfect example. Her English Writing 300, she is using an OER textbook that I don't know how much of it she's using. I'm going to let her speak to that in just a second. But she's also created a bunch of material within Canvas, created content pages, created videos, other things that allow her to teach what she wants to teach and the way that she wants to teach without her students having to buy an actual textbook. Do you want to talk a little bit more about it, Kelsey?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I actually created a textbook in LibreText for my 300 course, and I did that compiling other OER resources that were out there. And honestly, when I first did that, I did not know what I was doing at all, and I got a lot of help to do that. So if that's something you're interested in doing, I highly suggest it. One thing that I learned from the experience, though, is that when I put the textbook together, I hadn't actually used any of the pieces yet with my students. So once I actually started using them, I found out that some were more useful than others. So actually compiling a textbook like that, you might want to hold off on doing until you've tried out some of the materials with your students and decided what's really helpful and what's not. But so since then, what I do is I often take different pieces from different OER textbooks. I also have used the library resources, not just in my English Writing 300 class, but in literature classes or classes where there are copyright issues. It's really helpful in your selection of materials, because as Andy said, they can get ebook licenses for some of those, and this new CDL, so I have the acronym right, where they can scan some of the pages and upload those materials. But also, like Carl was saying, I have explored resources beyond my own discipline to find readings and things like that that are helpful to bring in. So I like to think of my Canvas course as being my textbook. As Andy said, I've created videos and Canvas content pages myself. And then I also integrate some of the OER materials into that course. So my Canvas shell is really my textbook in a sense. It's where I compile everything that I'm using. But I just wanted to also say one other thing. When I first started switching over to OER materials, my biggest concern was being able to have students annotate the materials. So if they couldn't write on them, that was my fear, was if I switch to all these electronic things, can my students take notes on them the same way that I'm asking them to do with print materials? And LibreText especially is so helpful for allowing students to annotate materials. They've integrated an app called Hypothesis, which allows students to take notes, do all of the things that they would be able to do with paper and pen, and to save those notes and to even share them with other students. So if you have a group working on something, they can annotate a document together. So if that's one of your concerns, I just wanted to bring that up because it was one of my big concerns about switching over. Anything else you wanted me to talk about, Andy?
That I don't think so, but and that is great because I knew about Hypothesis and I've had it on my list to because I wanted to create some like how-to, but now that I know that you're using it, I might tap you for that, Kelsey.
I haven't started using it yet, but I created a video to show my students how to use it. So
Yeah,
hopefully it works
great.
well. Yeah, thank you.
That's great.
Can I clarify one thing?
Yes, yes.
So if I have all the material from OER or whatever it is, and but they still need to buy like a calculator, those things, and I'm teaching economics, so then does that consider as a GTC course still?
If they have to purchase a calculator,
Yeah.
that is not within the definition. So you could still be considered a ZTC course.
Okay.
And ask them to purchase a calculator. We do have calculators available for checkout in the library, so that I would make sure that you make sure that students know about that. I also know, I'm not super familiar with this, but maybe I think there's a few math folks on the call. I know that there is, because somebody's using it. Let me look up here. Desmos is a free online calculator. And so that might be something that you would want to explore. This is a graphing calculator. So my undergraduate degree is in journalism and my master's degree is in library science. So I do not know the difference between a graphing calculator and a non-graphing calculator. But there might be some things that you could explore. And so that if your students have the means to purchase the calculator, then yes, then great. But if they don't, that there are some other options that are available to them. But officially, asking your students to purchase a calculator is not part of the instructional material, and so you still could be considered ZTC. What is included in instructional material is if you're asking students to purchase access to a homework system. So if there's some sort of homework that's connected to the commercial textbook, that is part of this definition. So you could not list your course as ZTC if you're asking them to purchase access to a homework system.
So if I create assignment, any exam on Canvas, that's it's okay for the teachers.
Absolutely. And I would recommend, there's a economics instructor at Folsom Lake College. Her name is Jennifer Black, and she just did a workshop yesterday, and she has moved all of her assignments into Canvas, and most of them are self-grading, so that she really doesn't even have to spend a lot of time grading. And she welcomed people to reach out to her, and the other thing that came up in her workshop that I thought was really great advice is to, if you really want to explore this and you're not quite sure how to start, to maybe ask a few faculty who have already switched over if you could observe how they did it, even maybe observe a couple of their classes and see how they use the material. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be within your discipline, but just getting some ideas from other faculty on how they were able to do this and how they interact with their students, I think can be really helpful.
Okay.
I forgot, I wanted to show you too. We just added another page on the website and I kind of hid it. I don't know if there's a better place for me to put it, but it's under the Finding OER and ZTC. We have listed all of the books that have been purchased through this project in each CAC. And in some cases, they are CDL, the controlled digital lending, and in some cases, they are ebook licenses. And you'll be able, it doesn't really, I mean, it wouldn't matter so much once you click on it. It's just you're gonna be asked to log in and then you'll have access to it. But this might be a thing that you would look at just to see, you know, especially in English writing, like look at some of the things that other folks are using. I did not say which instructor was using it. I just put the class.
For me, it's interesting to see that business and so the science they have nothing.
For the economics, yeah.
Yeah. Business and computer science.
Yeah, I would say that is one area. I hardly have any faculty in this CAC that have applied to the program. And I think part of it is just, it's so scary, and it's especially CIS. Gosh, that stuff is changing all the time. So when you're relying on publisher content, it's easier because you just can learn the update from the book that you're going to use with your students. But being tasked with trying to update that all the time, that would be daunting. So in cases like that, we are trying to come up with some creative solutions, and that's part of the controlled digital lending. I don't know what that looks like long term, but maybe we could at least get things in place for the next 3 to 5 years or so.
Yeah, also I have like some discount deal with the publisher, but it's still costly, but that's another option. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. And I've had other faculty tell me that well, I negotiated a discount with the publisher, which is great. I'm happy to hear that kind of work is happening. I would strongly urge you to actually check the bookstore website and make sure they are charging what the negotiated price that you came up with, because our bookstore, if folks haven't heard this, has been under a tremendous amount of change. The manager quit the week before last. The textbook manager, we're on our third one in as many months. So there's not a lot of communication that's happening within Follett right now. And so anybody who is here who is still requiring a textbook, I would just ask you, hey, check the class schedule, click all the way through to the bookstore and see what information they have up there, because it's quite possible that the information is incorrect.
Yeah, I saw that there is no textbook for my course yet.
Yeah. So I need to update this, and I will do this because I just found out yesterday who it is. Back on this website, the OER award program website, right underneath OER in this left navigation, you're going to see a link to zero textbook costs. You can go to this page, and this, accordion right here. How do I report my textbook? There is this is a slideshow that walks you through the process. That's OER, but this is a commercial textbook. And you have to do this every semester. The information doesn't carry over. So you can go and report your textbook information. And then where's my other? I thought I had something about notes in here because I need to change the name of the person. Oh, here we go. No, that's not it. I did have the bookstore contact person in here, but it's incorrect. So I will find that. I don't remember where I put it, and I will have that updated today because the person that's listed in there no longer works for Follett. Let's see. Okay, it's 12:29, and Sandra is talking about reporting, making sure you get your courses tagged ZTC. There is a form that you fill out for that. I have been actively looking at sections, and when I know it's ZTC, I've been telling Michael, I know this one's ZTC, add the designation to it. But it's worth just looking at the class schedule and making sure that it's accurate. And processes are going to be changing over this semester, so that you won't have to fill out this form anymore. It's going to be a mechanism within PeopleSoft, within employee self-services, that will generate that tag. But you still have to do it, unfortunately, every semester. Thank you, Lisa. Yes. That Steve is actually he's part of the regional management, but he's not our official manager. They haven't hired our manager. And there's someone, I can't remember his name, who's in charge of textbooks. And I just met him through email 2 days ago. So I will, no, it's not her either.
If I have a further question about this, you are the contact, or
Yes.
what's the contact number?
I am the contact. I'll put my email address in chat, but you will get a boatload of emails from me this semester. And then on the ZTC website, there's a page. The team is here. You can contact me through here, and then you'll see all of the CAC leads that are listed here as well.
I mean, I'm kind of new here, so what does CAC stand for?
CAC stands for Career and Academic Community. So at CRC, we are doing the guided pathways model, which means that we have grouped disciplines under kind of an umbrella that have some similar, especially GE coursework, so that students might be taking, might have some similar offerings, or if they switch majors, it's potentially going to be within that career and academic community. And so they're kind of housed under the same umbrella. You may have heard the term meta major. That's what some colleges call it. Yeah. We chose to call it career and academic community. And so it's groups of disciplines that are kind of folded together. And in most cases, you have the same dean. The only exception to that is science, math, and engineering, where science has a dean and then math has a dean, just because those departments are so gigantic. But each career and academic community is listed on this front page. And so for you in economics, it's under business and computer science. And so you'll see all of the programs that are under that CAC. You'll see up here, this is your CAC lead. And yeah, I should put this on here. I need to find out who they are, but for each CAC, there's also what's called a teaching and learning lead. And that is additional support within your area.
So CAC is different from division, or it's kind of similar?
They're pretty much interchangeable. The
Yeah.
word division would
Okay.
be interchangeable with career and academic community. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Can you tell me how to pronounce your name?
Yeah, Hanku.
Hanku.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I got a list just yesterday from President Bush of new
Oh.
faculty, and I saw your name on there. So welcome to CRC. We're so happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, folks. It's 12:34. Any other questions, or should we call it? Okay, I'm stopping the recording.
Thanks, Andy.
Is that Georgie?
Yes, I just want to say thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Yeah, of course, of course.